and good governance. Statistics from the National Demographic Health Survey, NDHS, has it that more than half of the women who have experienced physical or sexual violence have never sought help, while only 32% have sought help. While launching the Sex Offenders Register as part of the government strategy to deal with the issue of rape in the country in December 2019, Nigeria's Minister for Women Affairs, Dame Pauline Talon, stated that about 2 million Nigerians, mainly women and girls, are raped every year. This figure, although not proven, shows that there is a systemic failure in handling this spiraling crime. Violence against women and girls is a major impediment to achieving gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls in Nigeria. Today is day 15 of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and we're still commemorating that campaign. It aims to end violence against women and girls in all forms, and this year the theme of the program is Unite, Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls. And this is why today we're discussing addressing the culture of silence in gender-based violence cases. Joining me to have this conversation today is Adeola Potts Johnson, Program Manager, Women at Risk International Foundation. Hello, Adeola. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon, Somto. Thank you for having me today.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. The number to call to contribute on the program today is 07000 917 917. 07000 917 917. You can also send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. 0703 175 6537. You can listen live on the website as well, www.wfm917.com. And you can also download the Women Radio app, WFM917 on Google Play Store and on iOS. You can listen live on there at any time. All right, we're going right into conversation. And whenever we say the culture of silence, Adeola, I would like to get what your basic definition. We use that term a lot here, and a lot of people also use it. But because we'll be saying that a lot in the course of today's conversation, let me get your understanding from your perspective, what you refer to as the culture of silence.
Okay, so culture of silence, in my own opinion, means having a consensus of not acknowledging a particular subject. So a group of persons, a nation decide to. It's not spoken, so it's a quiet consensus. You're admitting to it, you're agreeing, but you're not saying it. Not to acknowledge a particular subject. So it should not be talked about, it should not be spoken about, everyone should be quiet about it. And it's usually given unconsciously. Sometimes it's given consciously, but oftentimes it's just not acknowledging a subject for it to be spoken about.
So, from what I'm getting from your definition, which is general, I think you're saying this concerning the general culture of silence, but with respect to sexual and gender-based violence, what would you term that?
So, in respect to sexual and gender-based violence, I'll say culture of silence is don't talk about it. It's not important. It's not a priority.
Even though it may have happened.
Even though it may hurt. Even if you're hurt, bear with it. Even if you're pained, you overcome it. Even though it's harming a lot of persons, it doesn't really matter. It's not important. The priority is little.
So that's a very and the last part where you said it's not important, the priority is little, that really hit me, because that's a priority for people who this has happened to.
Sexual and gender-based violence is a priority, and like we all know, violence against women and girls is one of the most violated human rights. It's one of the human rights violation. Women and girls are violated, and because of societal status, societal culture, don't talk about it. It's not something that should be heard. We should keep it within us. Or when she decides to talk about it, then she's stigmatized. She's blamed for allowing that to happen to her, even when it's not her fault.
I like that you said that, even when it's not her fault. So what are the factors responsible or that contribute to the culture of silence? Why do we even have that unspoken consensus that it doesn't matter, that we shouldn't speak about it?
So one would be sociocultural norms, and the societal status being accorded women. So I'll give a very easy example. A girl is raped and she wants to talk about it. And then her mother or her father, a family member says, better don't talk about it because men are being taught not to marry a rape survivor. She should not talk about it because she must have seduced the man. I mean, what did she wear when she went to visit him? Or what was she wearing on the street? She must have done something that got her husband angry, and that's why he decided to use his fist when it comes to physical violence. So the idea is we have cultural norms, we have religious norms. Usually people say women should be submissive, or I guess submission does not mean subservient. There are two different words.
100%.
So submission is not subservient. So women shouldn't speak. Women were cultured to be quiet. It's seen as elegant. So women should keep decorum. You should stay quiet. You should keep low tones. I mean, don't speak loud. As a lady, you're not supposed to do that. And those are ways that we're being trained and cultured and brought up. And so it just contributes to that silence. So when she wants to speak up, then she says, she's not acting like a lady, or she's not properly trained. And then when she decides to stand up for herself, she's being seen as being rebellious, or she's not being submissive when it comes to religious teaching. Other factors that contribute to it we also include, like Nigeria has a lot of beautiful laws that talks about, we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, that talks about punishment for the perpetrators. But then it's of no use if we have laws and they are not enacted. And they are not implemented. So I'll give you a very simple example. Now, the people usually say, when we meet survivors or when people in our community, why don't you report to the police? I say, police will say it's a family matter, because the policeman is part of our society. He's also schooled in our culture. So you go to the police and they speak about, and you talk about such things, and then they go like, it's a family thing, go and settle it at home. Or when you want to seek for justice, even if you have someone listening to you at the police station, then it's not expensive to also seek justice in Nigeria. We have a slow judicial system, which is one, but then it's also expensive to seek for justice.
And that's another factor we don't talk about enough.
So we have, even when there are free legal services, or there are people who want to give pro bono services, then they are overwhelmed because it's like we said, like you just mentioned, that over 2 billion women. So how many lawyers are willing to give free services? How many women are able to afford the services of a lawyer? So we have some of the factors that cause, that enhances and keeps the culture of silence around sexual and gender-based violence.
So, okay. Given what you just talked about, it looks like this is something that has been happening from time immemorial. I love how you laid it down. We're taught not to speak in loud voices. Ladies, more importantly, or girls, as they grow up into ladies and women, to encourage or keep decorum, because we don't want to make a fuss or look unattractive to the other gender. And then little by little, that takes away our voices, which now encourages the culture of silence.
Certainly.
So I have a question. When you now speak out, because there are cases where people say, this is really hurtful and this is not something I can take lying down. Again, they go against the norm, so to speak, because the norm is to be silent. So when they're brave enough to break away from the norm and speak out, what are the limitations? You've mentioned one, which is the law enforcement agency, which is the police that you gave that perfect example of. I'm sure there are other limitations to first accepting that accepting that what has been done is a crime, and then pursuing justice.
Okay, so I'll look at it from. So let's speak. I'll look at it from this perspective. One, the culture of silence that we're talking about today. A lady decides to speak up for herself. The first thing she has to think about is she should be ready to face stigmatization and probably being cut off from family, because it now becomes a family issue. Usually in Nigeria, A woman's let's use marriage for example. A woman's
Okay.
marital failure is not just the woman's problem. It's not really accorded to that woman. It's also accorded to her mother. And so the mother doesn't want to be shamed, even if the lady wants to speak up. So her mother goes like, "Oh, I'll be told I didn't train my daughter well." Or if a girl is raped, I'll be told I didn't train my daughter well. So she wants her daughter to keep quiet, just to keep that family honor. So if she decides to speak up, she should get ready to face that kind of opposition from most families in Nigeria. Will say they don't want anything to do with her anymore because she's the black sheep of the family.
She has brought shame.
She has brought shame to the family, and so that's one of the limitations. So a lot of people have to sit down and consider. Another reason why it's also because of the fact that if the survivor is dependent on the perpetrator for livelihood, she's not working, or he's her stepfather, he pays her school fees, he's her uncle, he's the one responsible for her upkeep, then she has to think, am I willing to lose that at the expense of standing up for my rights? If I lose that, where do I go to? Who do I turn to? So those are issues that don't make people want to speak up. Knowledge of the law, or we have laws, and when you ask someone on the street, an average Nigerian, so what happens? What does the law says about rape? He goes like, the person will just go to jail, finish.
So there's a basic understanding that it's a crime, but we don't know what it comes with.
And then even when it happens, particularly when it's rape or sexual violence, because people don't want to talk about it and they do take some actions immediately it happens, then the issue of evidence is being taken away. So when the lady is raped, for example, we tell her, make sure you go to the nearest sexual assault referral center. Now, a lot of young women don't even have that information, and then they don't even know. Even though there has been a lot that has been done, media about sexual assault referral centers everywhere, Lagos, everywhere around the country, there's a directory online that you can access. Like where I work is a sexual assault referral center. They still don't know where. And so programs like this will help, give that information out there so people don't even know where to go to when it happens. So young ladies oftentimes don't want to speak up because even when they speak up, the evidence is to prosecute the perpetrator has been washed away, it's gone. So then it becomes challenging to, take the person to court. And like I also said, the issue of legal services, how affordable are they? So those are part of the reasons when people sit and think, okay, if I take the perpetrator to court, there's this funny saying, I know I've heard it severally, we don't go to the police station or we don't go to the court of law and come back as friends. We're going there. We may go there as friends, but we come back as enemies. So people begin to think of, their social network. Am I willing to lose all of that? So those are reasons why girls don't want to speak up when it happens.
Fair points, and very well outlined. And honestly, okay, I'm coming back to that. It's 19 minutes past 3 on Women Radio 91.7, and this is still the Woman Agenda. The Woman Agenda is the program where is a program where we break the culture of silence while amplifying the voice of women and girls in demanding transparency, accountability, and good governance. Today we're speaking on addressing the culture of silence in gender-based violence cases. We're speaking on this in reference to the 16 days of activism on gender-based violence, which is running up until 10th of December, which is tomorrow, the Human Rights Day. My name is Somto Titilayo Ajama, in case you're just tuning in, and my guest today is Adeola Potts Johnson, Program Manager, Women at Risk International Foundation, WARIF. The number to call is 07000 917 917, 07000 917 917. You can always send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. Now, very quickly, is this a function, all the things you just mentioned that encourage the culture of silence, the limitations that are being faced? Okay, we have an incoming call. Hello, good afternoon. Hello. All right, kindly call back if you can. 07000 917 917 is still the number to call. Send a text or a WhatsApp message to 0703 175 6537. All right. So you mentioned all these different factors that contribute to the culture of silence. Would you say that this is largely a function of the society that we live in, in Nigeria?
It's a function of not necessarily Nigeria. It's a global function. If we look down history many years ago, even in developed world as it is today, where women have voices currently, it wasn't like that some 20, 30, 40 years ago. So it's a question, it's a cultural thing globally. We may have it in different shades and color across our culture, but violence against women and girls exists in every culture across the world. The only difference is in some cultures, some women have been able to break the bias and, begin to raise their voices, while in other cultures, women are still struggling to even find their voice. So it's really a cultural thing, but it's not just specific to Nigeria alone.
So how can we break the culture of silence? Because obviously this can't continue for another 20, 40 years.
Okay, so one way to break the culture is to implement the law and enact it. I mean, it's one thing to have the law in place, it's another thing for the law to work. So if the law is working and it's and people can see. Even though I was young, I remember when I was growing up, it was always said that when people used to pee on the streets so many years ago, someone was going to pick you up, and people stopped it. So it was a law that worked. Currently, some states in Nigeria will say no bikes in some places, and really it is working because motorbikes no longer operate in such places. So it's just the same thing. We just need more commitment from the government to ensure that the laws that are in place are actually working. So we need the custodians of the law and the implementers of the law to actually make the law work. That is one way. Another way is to also break this culture of silence is to give women a voice. And you say, how do we give women a voice? I wanted to say, train up the girl child just the way you train up the boy child. Give her equal opportunities. Don't let her find her values in the things that society says she should have. So womanhood in Africa, generally in Nigeria, is said to be, someone said, you're only important as your value as a woman comes in as a mother or as a wife and not as a daughter. I mean, that is absolutely irrelevant. So, I mean, what I choose to be if I choose to be a mother or a wife, it should be my choice, not because society says I should be. If my rights are violated, I should be able to speak up and get access to justice.
Yes.
I shouldn't be sidelined or asked to go to the rear because I'm a woman. Another way one way I also think that we can break the culture of silence actually is also to ensure that men and boys are also brought on board to understand it. So one of the popular saying in my organization is, we're not asking good men in quote to protect women from abusive men. We're saying, do not protect the perpetrator. Don't say, oh, he's one of us. And Madame Noves, he's one of us. Let us know. Expose the perpetrator also. Support the survivor. Give her the support that she needs and expose the perpetrator. And so that way, if men begin to, because men listen to men. So if we have men who are good role models, then other men who are carrying out the same can also see. So if a man doesn't protect another abuser, then he begins to understand that what I'm doing is wrong, and then he probably puts a stop to it. And another thing for me is somebody has a very funny say spiritual violence when people use either religious teachings to keep women's voice down. That is absolutely wrong in itself. God created men and he created women. They're equal before him. Our roles are different, but it doesn't make anybody superior to the other. So the idea is, I feel religious teachers also need to be educated about the fact that rights are not worldly things or anti-religious things. We're only saying that this woman should have a right to dignity, freedom to speak up her mind. We can also educate our girls to have their self-esteem and value, like I said earlier. Should not be dictated by some societal norms. She should be free to make her decisions. She should be free to do what she wants to do. She shouldn't be put under pressure to do what she doesn't want to do.
Thank you so much for that. So finally, in order to encourage the culture of silence, in order to discourage the culture of silence and to encourage people to speak up and report more cases, where are they? What are some of those referral centers? What are some quick organizations, some quick contacts that they can make? And I'm saying quick in the sense that this is something that people can remember. I know Lagos State has a domestic violence agency, and that we always give the number. We always talk about that. But do you have any ones that you like
Okay,
to?
sure, yeah. So for what if we have a toll free number? 0800 9210 0009. So I'll take that again. 0800 9210 0009. It's toll free and it works 24 hours a day.
One more time.
0800 9210 0009.
Okay.
It works 24 hours a day, and our office is situated at 6 Totten Street off Turban Avenue, Sabo Yaba, Lagos.
All right. Thank you very much for
Thank
that
you very
information.
much.
It's instrumental because you never really know when someone might need it.
Certainly.
Adeola, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much
It's
for
nice
joining
talking
us
to you,
today.
Samjo. Thank you for having me today.
Absolutely. And you've had it all from Adeola Potts Johnson, Program Manager, Women at Risk International Foundation. Now, if you have been violated, if you know anyone who has, the theme for this year's 16 Days of Activism is Unite, Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls. So it's imperative that we unite to end this. So if you've heard about it, if you know people that this has happened to, it is your responsibility just as much as it is theirs to speak up and report these cases so that we can together break the culture of silence. Thank you very much once again, and thank you to you for tuning in as well. The Woman and Gender continues next week Friday at 3 p.m. on Women Radio 91.7. My name is Somto Titilayo Ajama. Good afternoon.
What are the consequences of corruption on the woman? Silence. Silence through diverse forms. Education, healthcare, laws and policies fostering unfavorable conditions to the woman at all levels. The Woman Agenda, breaking that silence, demanding accountability, transparency and good governance. The Woman